Time now for sports on 104.7 The Cave. Here's Ned Reynolds.
Mike, the intern, Ned Reynolds, in the studio Monday morning. NFL draft this year has come to an end. Overall, I think the Kansas City Chiefs addressed the majority of the needs. We went over that first rounder on Friday from Ohio State, Josh Simmons. But then, of course, next guy taken will probably be the future of the defensive line if he holds up.
I think what you saw here was the perception of the Chiefs, and it pretty much did fall into, I think, vogue with what everybody else talked about, and that is 4 of the 7 players they drafted were defensive players, and that says it all. That's where their perception was. The defense especially needed some help. Edge rusher, they got an edge rusher, but offensive line was number 1, and that was Josh Simmons, as you mentioned, virtually 320 pounds out of Ohio State, and he is drafted really as the backup coming in to an offensive line that needs help on one side. Now, he can play defense as well, but the fact of the matter remains that he is going to be an offensive lineman, and he's protected, or his job is to protect Patrick Mahomes. So he is there if his knee injury heals up. And it's a substantial injury that kept him out for much of last season. The edge rusher, Ashton Gillotte, and I think that's how I pronounce his name, either Gillette or Gillotte, I'm not sure which. He's number 2 pick from, and he's also a good player, but the number 3. But the key player, in my opinion, was Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee, University of Tennessee. Transfer from Arizona State, 6'3", 291. Is he drafted to be the next Chris Jones? I think that's what it is. The kid's quick. He can get these guys, and he's number 2 pick. The Chiefs obviously had scouted him very well, and I think he really was one of the key individuals on that team. They did draft a rushing back, running back from one of the smaller schools out west. And
SMU.
Well, Southern Methodist, that's right. A team that plays here, incidentally, this year. It plays in Springfield. But the fact of the matter remains, I think the Chiefs got what they wanted. They had everything mapped out, and it also tells me, from a reporter standpoint, that Kansas City feels well-stocked at every position and feels like they are set to go.
Yeah, again, I think that first pick was a good one. I think Tennessee DT is great because he can play the edge, but he can also play inside, very much like Chris Jones can. Like Noah Williams out of California, I think he's going to be possibly a good CB, but we'll see. But, I mean, it's, again, you never know what's going to turn out. It made me laugh multiple times over the weekend and into Saturday when it finally became evident he was going to a certain team. But the back and forth with the Sanders stuff, I think it's funny that the most in everyone didn't buy into the hype.
Exactly what it was. Hype. Hype because he has the surname of Sanders. I don't know too much about Mel Kiper Jr. I only see him, and that's pretty rare, once a year on the draft. I don't know what qualifies him as being the draft expert and all that, but his ranting and raving on the air, it's not literally the case, but almost every minute of the doggone show, that is totally inexcusable and unprofessional. Why he adopted this kid as his all-time favorite, I don't know. That's neither here nor there. But all Mel Kiper Jr. was doing was covering his backside because he'd made a pick that wasn't going to come true. And that's a cardinal sin in our business to do that. Hey, you report on what's going on, you report on the players, but on and on and on. The NFL's made a big mistake, blah, 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 and all this. What nonsense is this? This guy should be, if not fired, he certainly should be fined and chastised to the point where he is suspended. That's totally unprofessional. Where's the ranting and raving about Quinn Ewers? Here's a kid from Texas, an All-America, teams in the Southeastern Conference. He takes him to bowl games, has him in contention in the SEC, and he falls to the 7th round. Where's your ranting and raving there? This was nonsensical, I should say, and certainly unprofessional in every respect. And any credibility that Mel, whatever his name is, Mel Kiper Jr., any credibility went out the window, in my opinion.
He wasn't the only one. I think overall, in the pundits were really, really heavy on this thing as early as pick 10 to 14. I remember reading this little bug on the bottom saying best available players at this point, and they had Sanders at like the 4. So you're telling me around 18 he should have went, which is insane. Again, with what you said, now you guys all real know with these people that are quote-unquote experts, take it with a grain of salt because they have no clue at all. The other thing, and I agree with what you said 100%, the other thing that they didn't talk about, they spent more time talking about how the fact that this kid didn't get picked than the fact that you had a kid who didn't have a famous athlete father, who literally busted his ass every step of the way, got picked first overall in the NFL draft, doesn't have a fancy Versace suit, straight up plain gray suit. He's not wearing $250,000 around his neck. He has his alma mater pin, and that's it. They don't make any kind of thing about Cam Ward whatsoever about this kid who did it the right way, but you're going to spend days talking about how this kid who came from privilege didn't get picked. Get off of it.
Fired the guy.
Now that Ned and I have got that out of our system as far as the craziness of the NFL draft, let's talk about St. Louis Blues hockey, my man. This weekend they were insane in St. Louis, and at least we know there's going to be 2 more games.
Maybe there is such a thing as Joe Boo's magic. My goodness sake, that's who the Blues have adopted this year. The old what was the character's name? Serrano?
Serrano from Major League.
Yeah, the actor who played him was really, really good. So anyway, the Blues have Joe Boo in their locker room, and what have they done? They routed the Winnipeg Jets in 2 games in St. Louis. That's the good news. The bad news is the series is tied at 2-2. It's not a big lead. Anyway, can the Blues carry it through? Sure they can. Heck, Jordan Bennington is playing at his top level right now. 30 saves in yesterday's game. 30 saves, and the Blues are playing very aggressive hockey, unlike Winnipeg. Well, the series goes back to Winnipeg now. We'll see what happens, and if the Blues can rout Winnipeg up there in Canada, in Manitoba, on Wednesday night, then, hey, I think things will be looking pretty good. Right now, series tied at 2 games apiece. The Blues win yesterday very big over the Winnipeg Jets, as they did a 7-2 rout on Friday, or on Thursday, I should say, and now here we are tied up at 2-2. And this is the President's Cup team. I mean, they won the President's Cup as a top team in hockey, and the Blues have them on the ropes.
And let's hope that they can continue that in Canada when they go back up there on, what is it, Tuesday, I think? Wednesday. And then again, now it goes back and forth. So after that, they go back to St. Louis no matter what. So if they can pull it out, I really wish they can. I don't know. Bennington is such a enigma to me because during the regular season, he's a good goalie. I mean, obviously he's in the NHL, but for some reason, when he gets into playoff mindset or even in that USA-Canada game, his brain just flips into he turns into a Super Saiyan. I don't even know if you know what that means, but
never heard of it.
Well, I never thought I'd tell Ned Reynolds what a Super Saiyan was, but you should watch the show Dragon Ball Z, and then you'll know. All right, local baseball favorites. How'd they do yesterday?
Well, both the Cardinals and the Redbirds, my goodness sake, the Redbirds and Royals both lost. And the Redbirds 7-1 to Milwaukee, the Royals 7-3 to Houston. Springfield Cardinals did get a win. The Springfield Cardinals are under 500. They've been in a slump, but they did beat the Wichita Wind Surge yesterday 12-4, and now Springfield comes back home to play at home 6 games starting tomorrow night. Missouri State got outslugged by Evansville 16-11 yesterday, but the Bears did win 2 of the 3 games, and Drury takes 3 out of 4 from McKendree University. So our teams are now honing their skills and getting ready for the conference playoffs, which will be coming up a little bit later on this month. Drury will play before Missouri State. Missouri State will play later on during the holidays. But by the fact of the matter, both teams are certainly capable of doing a lot of good things, and we've got our fingers crossed for them.
Definitely do. And my Royals looking like they're coming on right now, man.
Well, they also they were up against pretty good competition and did play fairly well until yesterday. But the fact is, the Astros, who are not the Astros of the past, did beat them 7-3. Still, Kansas City is playing better.
One game behind 500 better. That's what I'm talking about. All right, what about the Alabama race and what happened down there?
Yeah, that's Talladega. That's the Super Speedway, and Austin Cindric got the win. He crosses that finish line and takes the checkered flag ahead of Ryan Preece. Big crowd on hand. Great racing indeed, and the Super Speedway at Talladega is always a whole lot of fun. And it's Austin Cindric who gets the win.
I know my family came down for Oliver's birthday this weekend, and my stepdad was like, got to get the road, got to hit the house by 2:30, man. That's when the racing starts. But they made it. Ned, you have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.